Yay Networks.
I think it shaped so much of my perception on life, and certainly how to interact with people, because there's so many unspoken codes of conduct and ethics that are embedded into the culture. So you have to learn to respect one another in close proximity.
So we are very excited to have Samaire on our podcast today.
Thanks, Alana.
It's such a beautiful name.
Oh, thank you.
Can you please tell me?
Yeah. So
Actually, say it properly and your whole name.
Yeah. So my name is Samaire Armstrong.
Samaire.
Yeah, pretty close. We've known each other for decades, and it took me a long time to get. So, and honestly, I feel like I've said this phrase, when you have a thing and you're sure that everyone is as bored about it as you are, that's my name. I wish it were Samaire, because I think that's so much prettier.
Oh, I said it wrong?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But
that's why I just called you Saw.
That exactly.
Just
and that's also how it looks like it's spelt.
Okay.
I mean, it is how it's spelt, Samaire. In fact, my parents called me Samaire for the first 3 months of my life until a Scottish friend of theirs said, actually, if it is a Gaelic name, then theoretically it would be Samaire. So then they changed the pronunciation, and then my whole life ensued on that one moment.
Samaire.
Samaire.
So you the enunciation goes on the A, right?
Samaire. Correct.
Samaire.
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So wait, what nationality are you? Where does that name come from?
I'm Italian-Scottish, but the name theoretically is Gaelic. But I only say theoretically because it was found in a book that my dad was reading, like a Conan and the Barbarian type of book. The author's son wrote for True Blood. And the author died, but I had a friend who worked on True Blood who asked the author's son about it. And he said he probably made it up. So it's probably not even Gaelic. In fact, I went on a forum once, an online forum, because I was trying to, what is my name? And and I had been saying for 20 something years, it's Gaelic. And at the time it was a lost language. And then it became more spoken because of colleges and whatnot and the internet. And so these people are like, wow, that actress is a moron. She doesn't even know that her name's not Gaelic. And that name doesn't exist in the Gaelic language. And so I don't know. Or you can call me whatever you want. Saw is really easy.
I love Saw.
Thank you. I do too.
It's such a cute nickname.
Thank you.
It's so cute. And that's how.
Yeah.
So let's go way back. So when I first met you, which was a very long time ago because we have mutual friends, I saw you on Dirty Sexy Money.
Oh,
and I geeked out, which I don't really do, but I'm like, I love her. And I remember I called Olivia and I said, Olivia, and she said, that's my girl. That's Doll. You guys will love each other.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with her. I was obsessed with your character. I was obsessed with the show. And it was awesome. And then I was so excited to meet you, but that was so long ago.
That was a long time ago.
And
how many years? What's a long time ago?
So that was probably roughly 16 or 17 years ago. That was in 2000, actually 2006.
Yeah.
So
you started acting at a very young age.
Yes.
And you had a lot of success at a very young age.
Well,
which is beautiful.
Relatively, because you started when you were 8, right?
I started acting when I came out of my mother's vagina. So let's be real.
In Hollywood, I started when I was 18. I moved out here when I was 18.
Okay, I was younger. I was I started doing commercials when I was 8, 9. But
yeah.
Who's counting the years now?
Right. Let's not.
Right. Please don't. Let's go backwards.
And then I did the OC at 23. And that's I was introduced to, obviously Rachel, but Rachel introduced me to her entire Valley friends, all her girls that she grew up with. And those became my best buddies.
Yeah.
And that's how I met Olivia. And that's then how I met you.
Yeah. So great. And then I didn't know that you do Japanese sword training.
Yeah. So I was actually born in Japan
amazing.
Because my dad studied traditional Japanese battlefield sword training. My mom was studying healing arts at the time. And it was really cute. My dad was, he taught English during the day. My mom was a night lounge singer during the night. Oh. This is just this really interesting sort of indie film type of visual. And then during the day, we just drive the trains up and down to stay occupied. And so I got brought into the training tradition at a young age because in Japan, samurai start training at 5. So I became like part of that tradition.
What a neat culture to like have that experience growing up.
Absolutely. I think it shaped so much of my perception on life and certainly how to like interact with people because there's so many unspoken like codes of conduct and ethics that are embedded into the culture that especially if with so many people that live in such a small space, you have to learn to respect one another in like close proximity. So and then having my youth be brought up in this like absolutely fantastical sort of anime-esque environment, like my perception was really skewed on life. You know, it was just like, everything's a fantasy and strange and bizarre. And I mean, you saw Lost in Translation, like that's, it's like very wild and interesting.
Movie. So when did you move back to the States?
So I moved back and forth at the first 8 years of, I should say 10 years of my life was between Japan and the States. And I lived there for a total of 5 years off and on in the States, off and on. I moved to Hawaii when I was, I think it was 10. And then I spent like elementary in Hawaii and then Arizona for high school.
Oh my God. You've had such a wonderful like childhood in terms of exposure to different cultures. And I'm such a nature person. So I imagine like for you being now in Sedona and raising your child in Sedona, your son, it's so nice. It's just peaceful.
It is. And so I moved out of Los Angeles in 2021 because I really felt like it was important in his developmental years, my son's developmental years, to give him like that outdoor, like go outside and I want to give you space and freedom. Because I had that, to just get lost in the woods. I mean, mind you, I do have an app that like I can see where he is at all times, but like
she has an air tag on him.
Yeah. Pseudo get lost in the woods. But it took some time to get there. So, I mean, meaning, he's 11 now and everyone's like, not everyone, but like my boyfriend and his dad were like, when are you gonna let him ride his bike without? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we don't do that anymore. He's only 11. But back in the day, I mean, I was out in the woods at 10, the rainforest in Hawaii, but getting lost. I mean, we got lost. It's a surprise.
And dirty, lost and dirty. And like you explored.
Exactly. And so he's not as interested as in nature as I was, but he is getting that, experience. I think it's important that kids get buried in dirt,
Oh yeah.
And below the head, but that's what they're doing. They're just in the dirt all the time. And then they're on their games and stuff too. But
I think you're helping him without even knowing that he knows that you're helping just by exposing him to this kind of environment. Like here in LA, which is not the best environment to raise children. It could be a lot worse. So I don't want to like take that away. We have beautiful like sunshine and like
hiking, beach.
Yeah. I mean, there's you just have to make an effort. You just have to like really take them away from the electronics and like force them, because the second they come out, and I think that's where I really screwed up with my kids. Yeah. This is a total confession, is that, especially London, because she would throw nasty tantrums when she was younger. Yeah. And I would just say like I'm at a dinner or I'm at like a restaurant, like you can't do that. So here, let's distract you with Elmo or like, and I screwed up and I'm sure
we didn't know. I mean, I did absolutely not know what I was offering my son as an alternative to being bored. And when we moved back to Sedona, he was 7. He had an Apple Watch, an iPhone, an iPad, a YouTube channel, like an Instagram, a TikTok. And I finally came out of the environment and I was like, what do you need all this for? Yeah. Like, no. And that was really hard, taking it all away from him. And he was born at Cedars, and he was a full-blown awake city boy. And he was pissed that I had brought him to the sticks, basically. Yeah. But last week he said to me for the first time in now 3 years, he said, I really like Sedona. It's the perfect little city, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, it is.
So Saw now lives in, I say Saw like you're like, I'm talking to like, I'm breaking the fourth wall right now, which is like weird for me. Sedona is right next to where my parents grew up, which is Camp Verde, Arizona. It's called the Verde Valley. If you happen to be going up to Sedona, which is a very it's a destination place for people to go get the energy and the vortexes and they have beautiful crystals and creeks and stuff. It's on the way. And I was born in a town. Is Cottonwood, Arizona closer? It's closer than
it's right next door.
Okay. So that's how our connection. We found that we were really close, which is so strange because
really
Cottonwood is not a big city. So it's so weird.
Right. For the longest time, the thing to do was either go to the movies or go to the Walmart in Cottonwood. I mean, that was, you know what I mean? But now Cottonwood is a vineyard destination, a wine tour destination.
I heard that it's blowing up. And there was some rich Daddy Warbucks came in and is putting a bunch of money into Sedona, which is beautiful because it's beautiful for the community and the people that live there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of I don't know if he's the one you're referring to, but Maynard from Tool developed this massive wine vineyard.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. And in Jerome too. Jerome's the ghost town next door. But the whole Verde Valley has changed. It's people go there to really vacation, actually, and not just Sedona, but the whole Verde Valley.
Crazy because that's where my parents grew up, and it's who wants to go to the Verde Valley for vacation?
I know, but it's so
So. Switching gears over to acting and what you're doing now, how is the audition process?
We talked. It's so funny because the other day the lovely thing about being Los Angeles is the accessibility to so many things. And I have an audition after this and everything's on tape now. So you send in your own tape, which can be convenient, but also if you're by yourself and isolated, here you can go to an audition studio and then put it on tape and they can light it really appropriately and do your offside scene with you. In Sedona, I have to do it by myself. And I mean, I could wrangle someone to read my scene with me, but that always is weird. So uncomfortable.
Yes.
It is weird because I don't really want your input. And I just want to go in and out. So I've been doing the same thing that you brought up. And I was just talking to Josh, my boyfriend, about it. It's I think I need to use AI or something because what I do is I use my own voice as the offside. And I actually, in the audition today, it asked not to use your own voice. They asked to use another person, which I haven't seen. Which is so
annoying. You know what? Fuck them. I'm sorry.
Can you use AI's voice as well? I thought it was only for writing it out.
You can. They have an AI app where you can either use you could give your recording, your voice wave file, and then it can change the tone of it to be
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. After this, please let me know.
Yes, absolutely. I haven't nailed it down yet, but when I find the right one, I'll send it your way. But you're saying, it probably is having the energy of another human interaction.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, but then to play devil's advocate when you're auditioning when you're acting against a green screen and say a tennis ball, there's no energy there. But for the last 3 years, I certainly haven't booked anything off my video auditions. And I really think it's because I'm doing it what I do is I put it in my ear, myself in my ear. Do you do that?
You do?
Yeah. What do you do?
Oh my gosh. So what I do, which is for all my fellow thespians out there and artists, I pre-record either on my voice memo.
Yeah.
I'll say the lines,
the other person's lines,
and I'll leave a gap and I'll kind of whisper it so I can get the timing right.
Yeah.
And then I'll just play it back. And so I literally press record and then run in front of the camera and then start. I absolutely hate the process. There's nothing artistic or sexy or fun about it.
Yeah.
As much as auditioning is the hardest process for actors, it's going into the room is part of the process of performing. Right. And even though you might not get that job, you get the high of performing. And then, like us, being in the business for so long, we have these relationships with all these casting directors. So the casting directors are actually rooting for you. They want you to present the best tape not only for themselves so they could present it to the producers or the directors or the network, but they are really champions of actors because they know what it takes, and they'll give you feedback and they'll work with you.
They get to know you, and
they'll be like, you know what, Amber was off today, or Amber, like
or you can do it again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Let's start over because I know you have it. Like, let's do it again.
100%. Do you know how many times
give it a little more of this? Yeah. I know you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I really, really miss that a lot. I don't think we're ever going to go back to being in rooms.
You don't? Really?
No.
Wow.
No. I wish though we could do at least, I mean, it's offered sometimes as like a Zoom audition.
Oh,
like even that would be better.
Yeah, but that's what's just an associate who's pressing record and reading the lines.
Right.
I mean, this is not like, I don't think it's the casting directors, but you know what?
They don't even do general meetings anymore.
Yeah. You know what? That's funny because I asked for some the other day. So general meetings, for those of you who are listening or watching, is basically when, as an actor, you go in and you kind of meet either the heads of casting directors at studios or certain producers, and they kind of get to know you and see you and kind of, you just kind of pitch yourself. And
I mean, honestly, I think that all the auditions, that major projects that I've booked in my 20s, I honestly believe I booked them because of my personality in the room, not because of my audition. Because I've never been a great auditioner. I mean,
I don't think anyone's a great auditioner.
If they are, like, wow, that's a talent in itself. Because
100%.
It's not the actual experience of acting with the things and the people. And
right. And even chemistry reads. I don't know how many chemistry reads you did, but I remember just even going in like for a movie called 13 and doing when I was younger.
You auditioned for that?
Yeah. And I actually booked it, and my parents wouldn't let me do it because once they turned in the script, and this is when I think Josh Arnett was in it, right? I'm almost pretty sure he was cast or pinned for that one of the roles, and I was supposed to give him like a lap dance, and I was like 13, and I was like, oh my God, my dreams have come true, Josh Arnett. And then my parents got the final script, and because I grew up Mormon, they were like, hell no.
Right.
And I was like,
I would have loved to see your Mormon parents.
So was that Evan Rachel Wood ended up doing it?
Yes.
Oh my
gosh. Yeah. So that was a big moment
heavy
for me, but I really miss those chemistry reads, even for like even Mary Verneau and all those, just like going, it was just fun. And it was like those butterflies that just made you feel like so alive. And so, just falling back and finding new ways to fall back in love with what we do. And the process is.
One thing Alana said to me the last time we had dinner, and it stuck with me, and it was so profound. And this is what I was talking to Josh about when we got in a argument over when the last time I saw you was that successful people are willing to be cringy and are willing to put themselves out there and like do things that most people wouldn't do in terms of like, this is cool or this is couth and uncouth. Like successful people aren't afraid to be embarrassed about what they're doing. You have to like put it all out there. And when she told me that, like, it gave me so much freedom because before I didn't think about like what people thought about me so much before. And then I got older, and then I became a mom, and then like the reality of life actually hit me, whereas before I was like, anything's possible, and of course I'm gonna do this and that, and then like then you eventually hit an absolute wall, and you're like, oh no, I could mess this up, or I could do this wrong, or I could,
you get in your head as an actor.
And exactly, and you created that space for me by telling me that. I was like, oh, it's actually a prerequisite that you have to be willing to be that uncomfortable and do things that most people refuse to do because they're embarrassed.
100%.
That must have been AI.
What?
I said that must have been AI talking.
No, you have so much wisdom, Alana.
100%.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
I'm glad that helped you. That's
and Alana's been around actors growing up, so she knows.
Alana's like an actor's muse. Like
100%.
She's there in your ear, just like guiding you and encouraging you.
I should be a manager. 10%.
Yes.
No, you know what? So a lot of times she's like, "Come on, let's go. We're pimping you out." And I'm like, "Wait, I wish my publicist would talk like this." She's like, "No, I am your publicist." I said, "Listen, if you give me a job or you give me a gig,
10%.
100% I'll give you.
For sure.
And I love her approach because she's like, that's it. We're going out. We're going to pimp you out today. I was
also,
like, okay.
My mom really, and also I did too, because I did grow up doing modeling and like music videos and commercials and stuff like that. But I remember how terrified I was. And anytime I did try and audition for any like TV roles, like I was not a great actress at all. And I would try. And so, but I knew what to do in my mind, but I couldn't execute. So it's almost like I know what you guys can do because I know it in my mind. I just could never do it. I was too embarrassed.
Wow.
And so I think that's what gives me the knowledge, right?
Right. To put it into perspective and be like, here's the formula.
Yeah, you got to do it. Like I could sell you guys all day long. Yeah. Myself with acting going in a room.
Right.
See, I couldn't sell myself.
Yeah, no,
that's the other thing.
I could do that all day long.
I could sell a character, but like if I have to sell
do you know
who I am?
What's challenging though is that I think a lot of actors who are like highly successful are able to sell themselves. And there's like a thing in the stomach that I think for some people like yourself and myself is like, no, that doesn't feel right. But can you do it?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Yeah. I got it.
Yeah.
Because I also know for some reason, like I can, her best qualities, right? Like what I know and I pick up. And then she's like, oh, really? She's like, that was good. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why friends are so important.
So important. I want to transition really fast and I want to talk about your sobriety if you're okay. Because I feel like that's something that's really important and important for maybe other people out there that are trying to get sober.
Sure. Yeah.
Like myself. And whoever else is listening.
Yeah.
So can you kind of like walk us through how old you were?
Yeah. So actually, funnily enough, I don't know if you know this, Dirty Sexy Money was the show I was on where I finally got sober. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
You were so, wow.
Uh-huh. And I should say the first half of the season, I wasn't sober.
Okay.
And so it was really in my like early 20s, I think, like, we create this illusion that, I created an illusion that I existed in and what I thought life was. And I think that, using made it easy for me to cope with the realities that I didn't feel comfortable with. And I just wasn't mature enough to handle. And then I liked the effects. That's what they say. That you do it because you like the effects that it produces on you. And then it becomes something, I thought I had control over, but it clearly progressed to something that I never wanted to be a part of in terms of like what I was doing, the behavior I was exhibiting, things like my dreams in life that I always wanted to achieve were no longer important. It was really like about that next fix. And, I got called out and we talked about this the other day. I was like, I didn't realize they don't give you like a warning label on the back of whatever it is you're using. Like this is the side effects and whatnot. And so I thought I was depressed and I was sick. I had the flu and it turned out like, oh, it's what you're putting in your body that's affecting you. And thankfully, through a God shot circumstance, like I ended up in a place where they call it the gift of desperation. And, I couldn't see my future anymore. I felt like it was probably going to be the end of my existence if I didn't change something. And I had already been to a facility when I was 2 years prior. And at that time, I just thought like, I'll just get these people off my back and I'll take a break and I'll learn how to moderately, be a crazy person versus just like be a crazy person. Like if I ingest it moderate amounts, maybe I'll be okay.
Right. And figure out how to mask it.
Yeah. Right. And that's a complete delusion of alcoholism or your disease is that you come up with a like concoction that's going to finally work to be able to be a disaster.
So many people think that if you're on a show and you're successful, you can't possibly be an alcoholic. And you had mentioned that the first half of your season you were drinking and the second half. So being on a show and having your success, what made you make that decision other than not feeling good inside? Like did producers and agents or directors, did they see it and say, you need help?
It was definitely, it had become a problem. to the point it was interfering with my work. And so the question was, there was no insinuation. It was more like, what's going on? And the interesting thing was, you know, you always think it's just you, but people recognize in you what they're experiencing also. And there were people on a part of the show who were dealing with their own demons and issues. So they were very forgiving for my discrepancies isn't the right word, but like failures, really. And they just wanted to see me better. And I was willing to get better. I mean, I really was, because when I figured out that it wasn't these external things and that it was me that was the problem, you know, I'm the problem, that thing.
Like what?
I was like, I'm the issue. I'm really the problem. And then I was like, oh, well, if it is me, then I have power over fixing it. And since it is me and I have the power and I have no idea how to fix it, then I am willing to listen to people who have gone through this and solved this situation through the help of others, and do whatever they say. I was willing to do whatever they say to not feel like this, to not live my life like this. And, you know, one of the things that they say is like, you can live happy, joyous, and free. I don't remember honestly ever living happy, joyous, and free. Like those are three adjectives, verbs, I don't know, that I like, maybe just happy sometimes because of a result of something, joyous maybe because I got a present or something, you know, free, I don't even know what that means. But all three together, it was like, and you know, in the entity that we participate in to help us through this, which is to remain anonymous, promises you those things. And I, A, wanted it, B, didn't believe it could happen, but C, just wanted to prove that their promises were lies. You know, like you made a bold promise that I don't think you can keep. So I'm going to go through this process just to prove you wrong. And I, you know, I proved them.
I say that too.
Prove them right, you know, and
or they prove, they proved.
My experience that they, you know, the path they put me on was that they were right.
That's beautiful.
So anyone who, it doesn't matter what issues of sobriety, like there's always places, people in your community, in your, you know, even in your church or, you know, whatever, like I guess what I'm trying to say is you never know who's suffering. And like, you could have it all, or you could have nothing. And like, mental health does not discriminate.
Right.
You know, the disease does not discriminate. Cancer, nothing discriminates in terms of any of that stuff. And I think that that's what brings humans together. And I think it's really beautiful that you could share that gift, you know, one day with your son, just like, you know, I'm trying to teach my kids, you know, my way is going to be different than, say, someone else's way in their life. And I think that's the most, is you just try to get the generation after you to do a little bit better and leave this earth a little bit better than how you got here.
Right.
And also break the cycle, you know, break the cycle and pass along the tools you've learned, right? We get the gift that we get to pass the tools.
Right. Exactly.
And
I mean,
it's beautiful.
That toolbox is something that it's a spiritual malady, right? You have like an emptiness inside you. They call it a God-shaped hole. And I think so many young people can relate to this feeling of like, I'm missing something. And have you not gone through the process of figuring out what the solution is? There's no way to pass that toolbox down. You can try and you can talk about your feelings and you can sit in therapy, but like until you have a tangible process to enact procedure to get through that emptiness and loneliness and discomfort, you're scraping the barrel trying to figure it out. So it is a community, and you know the effects are proven in the wide open, glistening eyes of the people who have gone through the solution, and the freedom they seem to exhibit internally. It's like, I want that. I want to feel that, because that feeling is better than anything else I was chasing after, filling with other ingestibles or whatever it is.
Yeah. Life is too short. And I know, like for myself, you know, I've gone through growing up in the Mormon church, there's rules, right? And the rules are, you didn't drink. You didn't drink, you know, you didn't have caffeine, even though there's like tons of Mormon moms that would be like, the caffeine, the Diet Coke is like my, my drug. So I grew up with the idea that those were the rules and you follow them. And then when I left the church, I would say now looking back, maybe I was a little bit lost because I didn't have these rules to follow. Yes. There was nothing in life to follow. But then I would say through the gift of desperation and not being able to quiet my mind, because I have a very loud mind. And, I've shared before that I suffer from, pretty severe anxiety and depression, and it comes in waves. Just like having a higher power, right? It doesn't mean whether it's a she God, he God, whether it's nature, whatever it is, it's just having something that's like bigger than you that you can rely on has helped me so much in my life. And I'm so, so grateful for that. So I think that's helpful. And hopefully, even when I ask my kids now to pray, they're like, no, we're not going to pray. I'm like, we are praying. And if we're not praying, then we're going to say our I ams. And I want 3 things you're grateful for. Like, so whatever version of a prayer is, even for these kids, like we don't have to fold our arms. We don't have to do what I was trained to do or programmed as a kid to do. And by the way, saying the prayer in the exact format, it's like, it actually took me a while to even deprogram how Mormons pray.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very strange thing. Like, it's even so now when I go home, like during Thanksgiving, and they ask me to say the prayer, I think my parents were like, that's a different type of prayer. And then they were all shocked because they're like, wow, my sisters were crying. I was crying. And they were like, that was so beautiful. And I think it's because I made it so specific to my journey here on this earth and how I want to experience my relationship with my higher power.
I love that.
So
that's
so, what's so interesting is Emerson, my 16-year-old, he, from doing the prayers and the process at such a young age and really passing the tools along and doing with them the I am affirmations on the way to school and just we can be nice to each other and the prayers, I wasn't feeling good. And one night he said, everybody, we have to get around mom and pray.
Oh my God.
And it was the most, I didn't know that they really listened and it was in them. And then I also taught them that, like we are royal lineage, right? And so he said that too. He was like, we're son and daughters of the Most High. He repeated and it made me cry. He repeated anything that I ever said in the whole prayer for like 5 minutes. And I was looking at him like, and he's like, you think I don't listen? And then they all chimed in.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful because they say it to themselves every day.
So that's incredible. And I didn't know that. And the fact that I didn't know that story,
it was just the last few months.
So beautiful. But it just goes to show you your kids are watching you.
Yes.
Like even if you're not talking, they're watching everything you do, like exercising, right? Like Alana's so disciplined when she's exercising. Like, I'd call her and she's like 6 a.m. and she's like on the treadmill. And I'm like, I'm just rolling out of bed. But she learned that. Why? Because I come to find out her mom grew up, she used to go to the gym. I'm telling your story, so go ahead.
No, she used to go to the gym or go roller skating or anything. And she would drag me along.
Amazing.
And at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I loved it.
You loved it.
I loved it. And so I just started at like age 12. I said, can I get a gym membership? And I started going on my own.
No
I just never really stopped.
Wow.
It was just a thing you did. You go to the gym.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive, actually.
Very impressive.
Yeah, just a little bit up.
So,
okay, so what's next? What's next for life? And
So I'm really excited. I feel like the last 4 years, like there's been some sort of I can't remember what the like gateway is, but there was some sort of astronomical gateway that's occurred and like some chapter is over and beginning in the world because the eclipse.
Oh, I was going to say, I think
the dragon year.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like
but there's something this month is like the new. It's the lunar moon started like the 6th and 7th of May.
Isn't it funny? There's always like, this is the first and last time in 800 years. It's like, there's always a first and last time in 800 years. But I am excited.
I'm going to look it up.
I feel like we're on the precipice of something new and exciting. I think a lot of people, like we were really split and divided in the last 4 years. And I think a lot of us are all coming together underneath this like one consciousness again, and of acceptance and camaraderie for our existence in life. That's just my vibe that I'm feeling, which is not how I was feeling just a year ago. I'm excited to tell stories that have integrity and morality and triumph and grit and like falling and getting back up. I feel like the way the industry had been moving was mostly for profit. And I think it's going to get back to storytelling for cultural sake of integral consciousness of like where we're heading, because it has to. And, you know, storytelling is in essence like just as important as hunter gathering that was back to like prehistoric man. It's inside of us. And that's why I think one of the reasons like podcasts are doing so well is because this is a massive form of communication that
100%.
Right.
This is like Reddit, but live.
Yes. Yes.
But like without like with a little bit monitored. Because and I said to my ex-husband yesterday when I saw him, I said, I really feel that the independent movies are going to come back.
Absolutely.
Because those are the stories like you were talking about, the raw, vulnerable, like even a few projects that I'm developing, like the coming of age stories, like what it's like raising a kid now. It's very different. These landscapes that we are experiencing, whether it's political, religious, or, you know, spiritual. And those are like the moments that the world needs. It
needs a visual representation to use as a compass to, you know, when you see something or when you hear something, it's like, oh, I see myself in that character. Like maybe I could have the courage to do X, Y, and Z. And we need those templates. So I think as the profitable model starts to detract because it isn't like the market's been so saturated with content that is somewhat meaningless in many ways. Like there's so many platforms. And I think people will be going back to the movies, but kids like the movie theater.
They love
right.
movies.
And the industry keeps saying that kids don't like a movie theater. That's not true. Five Nights at Freddy's like was so massive in my small town with the kids. They knew it was like their Rocky Horror Picture Show. It was incredible. And so if, you know, we just start creating more of that, I think we'll be good. It's going to get crazy in the next
energy
few years.
like breeds momentum.
Yes, absolutely. And this onslaught of AI is going to be very persistent. But I think that, you know, the equal evolution of where we're heading will be like real human creation as well. So I'm excited.
Can I tell you something? Yeah. You're very intuitive. And I know that because you're spot on about all of this stuff. And I've been feeling the exact same way just about where our, you know, the entertainment industry is going and hopefully with, you know, the election coming up, like we will find a way for our country to get back on track and be proud, to be an American and also be the country that we want to be, not to make this about politics, that can help the world around us, because that is what we've always been. We have to go back to helping humanity and supporting not just our own borders, but like across the borders at all costs. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. I love you guys. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And by the way, before I say this, for those who want to find you on socials, where can they find you?
So I'm mostly on Instagram at Samaire XOXO, SAMAIRE.XOXO.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And don't forget to subscribe and like and tell your friends. And if you have any ideas for future episodes, please let us know. And I hope everyone has a beautiful day. Namaste, bitches.
Namaste.
Yay Networks.